See
Hey
it on.
everyone. Yep, we're on. Hey everyone, it's Lisa with Are You My Cousin? And it's Thursday. We are here for our weekly genealogy chat because you know I love to talk all things genealogy. And as you know, I've been out of the office for a couple weeks now, I guess. And I'm really happy to be back with you today. And as you can see, I also have Mary Eberle from DNA Hunters Society over with me today. You guys, if you've watched before, you know Mary. She is my go-to DNA person, my expert in DNA, because I'm not an expert in DNA. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm super glad. And guys, I'm also super glad to have Mary because, as you know, I've been out traveling recently. Some planned, some unplanned that just had to come up to take care of some things in the family. But here we are today. I am if I look a little bleary-eyed, guys, I just got in last night from a vacation. From some of you guys, if you followed me on social media, you've probably known that I've actually been out of the country and just got back in. Really excited to be back in my office and probably looking forward to a really good nap later when I get done. So, but yeah, I am glad to be back here. If you guys are here and want to let me know where you're watching from, I'd love to hear where you are watching from. If you are new, if you are just finding Are You My Cousin, if you are just finding me here on YouTube or Facebook, whichever you are watching from, I do want to say a special welcome to you guys and encourage you to, at some point, head over to the website. It's just lisalisten.com and check out the blog post that I have there. I have almost 300 blog posts on various genealogy topics over there. So if you are new and you've just not quite found it yet, head over there. I'm sure you can use the search bar, or you can just scroll through. Either way is fine. And if you've been a reader for a while, you might want to check some of them back out. You may have missed some, or you may find some that I've updated over there as well as I work. I'm always constantly updating old posts too. So love to have you there. Hey, Susan from Portland. Hey, Deb. Good to see you. And Palmier from Ontario. So wonderful to see you with us today. I'm excited that you guys are here. A couple other announcements that are coming up here at Are You My Cousin? Don't forget, we have the genealogy cruise. Are You My Cousin will be on the genealogy cruise in June 20th through 27th, 2022. So next June. And you'll find details about that on the website. And I would also want to encourage you, and I'm going to put this link here, to sign up for the Frugal Genealogy email that I'll start sending out. The first one goes out Saturday. This is, guys, this is separate from the weekly email that I send out on Mondays. This is designed to help you guys. Hang on, I'm getting a little back feedback. This particular email is really designed to let you know of the new genealogy bargains that are out there and that are coming up, because I see a lot of these as we go into the fourth quarter, as we start to see the holiday sales start to come up. We're going to start to see DNA sales. We're going to start to see sales on pretty much everything. And so if you are looking for something specific, if there's something that you are hoping to purchase within the next couple months, hop onto that email list and I will make sure that you will receive the notices as I get them. So again, it'll just be a week. It's just kind of an extra weekly email. And if you don't want to, no worries. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be there, be honest. So let me put that in there. And then we will see who all we have on our list here. We have Ginger. Hey, Ginger. Teresa's here from Kansas. Hey, Dave. He's back from Renton, Washington. Hey, Diane. Good to see you again. Hey, Barb. Another Canadian. Yay. We're so glad you're here. So let me put in this link for the Genealogy Bargains email list. And I only do this, guys, this Genealogy Bargains emails, they only go out from October, kind of the end of October to the end of December. I don't do this all year long. If for some reason you guys want me to do it all year long, I'll do it. But I don't necessarily think I see quite as many going through. All right, so I just popped that in the comment section. You guys should see that, and it should be coming through. Okay, we are here. Glad that everybody is here with us. I am getting some feedback. Mary, are you hearing that as well? Are you hearing that?
Just a little.
Hmm. Okay. I'm going to adjust my microphone away just a little bit, and that might help. Okay. So, Mary, yay! I'm so glad you're here today. I know when I asked Mary if she'd like to join me again today, she had a wonderful idea of talking through the process of how she, as a DNA expert, works with adoptees who are looking for birth parents or parents of unknown origin. Did I say that? Did I say that correctly, Mary?
Well, adoptees and other people who have unknown parents,
Yeah.
because they might not necessarily be an adoptee.
Good point. Good point. So looking for that. So I'm really excited to kind of talk with you about this and see what your process is. Mary, even though Mary and I are both genealogy researchers, we have different specialty areas and different processes, the way we work through things. So Mary, I think I would start from the very, very top. When somebody who is an adoptee or somebody who has unknown parents, what is the first thing you do? What do you, is it a DNA test? Is it more into their family tree? What is the first thing you do?
Well, normally I talk to them. It's nice to get on the phone with them and gather some information about things like, have they already done DNA testing? Where do they do DNA testing? Do they know one parent but not the other? Things like that. And also when they were born and where they were born. It doesn't necessarily mean that's where they were conceived, because a lot of times birth mothers moved states before giving birth. So, for example, they went to homes for unwed mothers, and sometimes this was out of state. So,
Mhm.
just gathering the initial information that they know. Um, there's also something called non-identifying information, that when you adopt a baby, oftentimes you get this collection of information about the birth parents that it's things like family size, maybe their
Mhm.
religion, their occupations, things like that. Where are they in college or that kind of thing? And that can be helpful. It's not always 100% accurate, but that oftentimes has some clues in it as to who we're looking for.
That's interesting because the non-identifying information you just referred to, a lot of that are definitely clues that we pull out of traditional genealogy records, not necessarily adoptee research, but the things like occupation, we use that as clues, level of education, those kinds of things. They don't tell us who somebody is, but we absolutely use those in just traditional genealogy research. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I had not thought about that. The other question I had for you, you talked about how the child may be conceived in one state and the mother may have gone to out of state or to another place to actually give birth. Were there, much like we see kind of the marriage meals or the Gretna Greens, where people, tend to go to from one area, tend to go to a certain area to get married. Do you see that? Do you see patterns of that around the US when you're researching?
Well, one pattern I would say there is women going to larger cities.
Mm.
So they might be from a little town, or they might be from a rural area, and then these homes for unwed mothers, or sometimes it was a family member that they were sent away to stay with.
Mhm.
Um, so it's pretty common to have the birth take place in a larger city.
That's interesting. Did not know. We're already getting questions in the chat, and I think that's fabulous. I think maybe, Mary, that what we'll do is kind of talk through what we're talking through and then go back and address the questions more specifically at the end, if that works for you. And guys,
Sure.
definitely put them in there. We will come back to your questions just to make sure we can get everything there for you. So actually, this actually will probably address Barb's question. This is a question Mary had wanted to talk about, was, and that I have, is that which companies do you suggest that somebody test with?
Well, the company where I'm looking at matches and trying to figure things out. I'm building trees. I'm looking at the matches trees. That company where I spend about 95% of my time is Ancestry.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that I'm not also looking at their matches, for example, at 23andMe, because maybe somebody only tested at 23andMe, and I can pull that match information into my analysis at Ancestry.
Mhm.
So we've got those two companies, and we have Family Tree DNA and MyHeritage.
Mhm.
So sometimes people are either testing or they can transfer their DNA results into the family tree and MyHeritage
Mhm.
in order to get matches from those companies.
Okay. And so if because let's use Ancestry for the example, since that's where you spend most of your time. Does your client have to have an active account on Ancestry to be able to test there and for you to be able to use their information?
They do, they can test and they'll get their matches, and you'll see like a tree for people that have their tree attached to their DNA, or their, I guess it's the other way around. Their
Mhm.
DNA is attached to their tree. But like if you would like to click on that tree and maybe see the ancestral birthplaces and death places and the specifics, or you want to look at further back in their tree,
Mhm.
um, Ancestry will tell you you need an account unless you
Okay.
have one. So there is that extra fee that people need to have that extra account going at Ancestry, but I need to like look at the tree and see the specifics. So you can do a monthly plan, but a lot of times I think people do 6 months or 12 months.
Mhm. I
And
think it's a better deal to do at a 6-month or 12-month level, and I'm
Mhm.
assuming they need just more the first tier and not that do they need, like, the full world? I guess
Yeah,
that depends. I
it
guess that
right.
depends, actually, now that I said
Mhm.
that.
Right. So I can usually get a good feel for, um, is the basic plan US, is that sufficient?
Mhm.
It depends upon how long their family has been in this country. Um, so if they've been in this country a long time, then all the records will be US records. Or I've done a lot of Canadian work, but now
Mhm.
now that I'm talking, I guess that probably also requires an international subscription, the next
Mhm.
level. So in that situation, I would want them to have international, or if it looks like their biological family are more recent immigrants and I'm needing to build those trees further back in time, then I would want them to get the international subscription.
And that makes sense, yeah. Because I know you've done some international type of some of your research has taken you internationally on your search as well, so that makes sense.
Mhm.
So once you've done your interview and they have that account there at Ancestry, do they just share your how do you get access? Do they have to give you login information? Is it just an invite to a tree? I know sometimes with privacy and stuff, people are a little concerned with that kind of thing.
Right, right, and Ancestry does allow you to share DNA and your DNA results with somebody else, and also separately share your tree with somebody else.
Mhm.
Um, but I I, um, I can do a lot more and move a lot more quickly, and if you're paying me by the hour, you want me to move quickly.
Right, right.
So, virtually everyone shares their login information with me, and they can always switch their password when we're done working together,
Mhm.
because I don't need to get back in. Um, and those other DNA testing companies, they don't have a way to share your results. So with those companies, you really have to share your login and password. And normally this isn't an issue. And again, they can switch their password once we're done. Um, it does give me a lot of if I were unscrupulous, right,
She's
and people
not.
have done this, I'm not. I could change their password and say, hey, sorry, you can't get into your account
Right.
anymore. I have heard stories like that where people are, where it's a very high profile case,
Mhm.
and people are competing to solve the mystery. But, of course, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, you know,
Right.
do that. That's crazy. And anyway, I think I had one other thought, but this is something I tell people, either at the beginning or once I'm at the point where I need to address this, and that is, like, I am going to look at the messages that you sent to your matches, because I want to see, like, what do we know? Like, if
Mhm.
you already know this one match is related through a specific ancestor, you know, I'm pretty sure you don't want to pay me for the time it's going to take for me to figure that out. Right? So it's a little
Yeah.
weird in that I'm looking at messages, I'm trying to figure out, have these questions been asked? And then when it comes to the point where, like, I would like to find out more from these matches,
Mhm.
then I'll say, well, would you like me to reach out to them, or do you want to do it? And I'll tell you what to say.
Mhm.
And so it is this, like, very close relationship with the client
Mhm.
where, I'm jumping in. It's kind of like having a family member help you. And you have to have some trust in terms of what I'm doing. And I am a former attorney, I'm a former scientist. I'm you know I think attorneys are trustworthy. I know that maybe in general people don't agree, but it's and if anything blows up, then we can, just like, if somebody said, like, okay, I don't want to continue the search, I'm done, you know I would be totally respectful of that, because
Mhm.
it really is their search. And as fascinating as it is for me to dig in and figure it out, it's really up to them what
Yeah.
they want to do.
Yes, and I think that's a really good point. At the end of the day, the more information you have up front that is already known or strongly suspected, that helps you be quicker. It helps you move through the process faster. And guys, just in general, she mentioned, being faster. Most genealogy researchers do charge by the hour, and so you want to, if you have that nice solid relationship, you can, help the researcher out. You can help Mary out so that she doesn't have to repeat research that has already been done, and that's a biggie.
Mhm.
So, yeah, definitely. All right, so once your client's done all that, you have their information. What do you do? You have
Well,
access to those results. What's your next
mhm,
step?
mhm. Well, I'm looking for their matches, who are related to each other.
Mhm,
And if this is a situation where only one parent is unknown, then I will try to identify the matches to the known parent, so that I can kind of put them on the side, and I don't need to research those people. And I now have an enriched pool of the unknown parent,
mhm,
matches who are related through the unknown parent. And what I'm doing is I'm using the shared matches function on
mhm.
Ancestry to figure out who's, of your matches who are related to you, who's related to each other.
That makes sense. Yes.
And then I'm looking at the trees, and I'm trying to see, can I tell from the trees how these matches are related to each other?
Mhm,
So looking for common ancestors. And I'm also, there could be multiple of these groups, and we call them genetic networks. So you
okay.
might have, one genetic network from somebody's one grandparent, and another genetic network from their other grandparent, on the unknown side.
Mhm,
And I'm trying to figure out those common ancestors, So I'm
Mhm.
building the tree back in time. And I am keeping in mind how close the match is. So for example, if it looks like a second cousin, then that means that one set of their great grandparents is likely the great grandparents of the adoptee.
Okay.
So if I can figure out which of those great grandparent sets is in common to the group, then I can build the tree forward in time
Mhm.
from that set of great grandparents
Right.
forward in time because one of their descendants should be the birth parent.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So if you build a hypothesis out and you think you've identified, say, who that birth parent is, so you've just done your process and you've kind of built it forward and you think you've identified, do you actually reach out and contact that family, or that person if they're still alive? I can imagine that would be super traumatic. Out of the
Mhm.
blue. What do you do with that?
Well, it depends upon how close the person is that we're reaching out to.
Mhm.
So if it's a birth parent or a half sibling, I would want my client to do it.
Mhm.
There are instances where birth parents they get the phone call and they say, you know, they might say it wasn't me, but never call me again,
Right.
and hang up the phone. And that might be the only chance that that person has to hear the voice of their birth parent.
Right.
So that's something that I have strong feelings that they should do.
Mhm.
And I think that's also the case with half siblings that it's it's a really that's a really close relative where you're
Yeah.
sharing one parent. um, I did have one instance where the person asked me to do the reach out,
Mhm.
and it's you don't know what they're going to say, and
Right.
luckily that turned out well. And she I was able to say, here's who I'm helping, and here's he was born in Chicago, and here's when he was born.
Mhm.
And and a lot of you don't want to back somebody into a corner, but if
Mm.
you say like these families are coming up and they're really close, and um, da, 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 and would
Yeah.
you be willing to help this person that I'm helping figure this out?
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're not coming out and saying, "By the way, I've discovered that you're asking for further help."
Hmm.
And that type of help, you're asking for either information, like, do they know, I guess, or, family or are you even asking them to DNA tests so that you have more DNA data to confirm or disprove, I guess?
Hmm. Hmm. Right. I'm asking for help. A lot of times we're asking people to do DNA testing. It might be a situation where there's a set of brothers in the case of an unknown father.
Mhm,
And unless unless they died before the conception,
mhm,
or one of their children or grandchildren has tested,
mhm,
so that we can look at the numbers and see, well, is this an uncle or is it a father? Um, you know, if we've got a set of 10 brothers, then we're going to need some people to test, or, hopefully to test in order to come up with the exact person, assuming
mhm.
the adoptee wants to know things that specifically.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to be able to rule out certain lines, definitely. And so
Mhm.
when you've done all this, do you encourage people to reach out to that birth family? I mean, do most people want to reach out to the birth family, or is it more of, "I just wanted to know where the line was"? Do you see both, or what do people usually what's usually done once you've identified that birth parent or that probable birth parent? Is it then just do you see kind of the whole gamut of emotions and follow-up?
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. A lot of times people don't want to upset the other family. Um, I had one instance like that fairly recently, and it came down to two brothers as the potential birth father.
Mhm.
And one was closer in age to the birth mom than the other. So it looked like it probably was the one closer in age.
Mhm.
It was right around kind of high school, early adult. And the client said, I just don't want to ask. I don't want to
Okay.
upset the family, and I'm okay. Like, this is good enough.
Mhm.
And like 2 months later, she called me and she said, well, one of their daughters tested, and now
Oh,
she's in my
wow.
test list. So you see that happen where, um, and then they're like, well, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And
um,
that's a whole nother topic we probably should talk about sometime, is just that whole, everybody's kind of, for a long time was kind of like, "Ooh, new DNA, let's test DNA," and obviously
Mhm.
things come to light that, not everybody is happy to have come to light, and that's a harsh reality for a number of folks, so, but yeah.
Right, right. So, like, in general, if it's your dad, if it's the person's dad, people are much more protective about
Mhm.
their own parents. If it's their grandparent, people are starting to feel less emotional about it,
Mhm.
unless, maybe not 100% of the time. And if it's a great grandfather, then it's like, well, then it's like very much more relaxed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I could see that,
mhm,
definitely. Yeah,
mhm,
and even in my own research, really up until recently, and there's a lot of longevity in my family lines, there've been some, I just had to be very careful, and I just had to be super careful. I just didn't even bring it up with certain family line. There's certain things I just wouldn't touch until, it was no longer an issue, kind of thing. But you're right. Once you get back further and further, it's like everybody wants to tell everybody everything. And so
mhm.
it
And
seemed
like,
like
what
that
a
way. Well, at least in my family, they're like, "Oh, did you hear?" Anyway, that's another conversation.
what a character he was
Yeah,
stories, right?
yeah.
Like,
Oh, they're like,
you know,
"Oh, you didn't know who so and so was? Well, oh, I'll tell you, that was, they were." I'm like, wow, common story. And this was something interesting. This is a kind of an aside, but I would find things that when you were talking about getting to know your client and what they already knew and what was known in the family, is that when I started research, just with straight up oral history, and this actually does back into, um, children who were born out of wedlock, who, there was unknown parentage going on. Um, there was actually quite a bit of information that was already known, but just didn't make it down my side of the family. And I had one in particular, and she, my aunt told me who it was, and I shared the information. I mean, and all this, and she's like, and her own kids came to me and said, "Who is this, and how did you find out?" And I just looked at them. I was stunned, and I said, "Well, your mother told me," and they were shocked.
mhm.
So it was one of those kinds of things. But we should get to the questions. We've definitely got some questions
Okay,
going on here, and
great.
I was going to give a shout out to Bill. He's watching from Germany today,
Oh,
so I know
wow.
it's a little bit later over there. So wonderful. Okay, so I think the first question we had up here was from Catherine, wanting to know. She wants to confirm the mother. Oops, hang on. The mother of her second great grandmother, the probable lady married a second time. You have 5 matches to her descendants from that marriage. So half fourth cousins. Is this enough to confirm?
I would say that far back in time, it's not you're not able to differentiate a full fourth cousin from a half fourth cousin.
Okay.
So I assume the question is, which husband is the biological ancestor?
Looks like it. So,
Okay,
oh, she wants to confirm the mother of the second great grandmother. So she wants to actually confirm the third great grandmother, it
the
looks
third
like.
great grandmother. And
Mhm.
that's getting back pretty far in terms of using DNA.
Okay.
I have been able to find third great grandparents, but it's not obviously it's not as easy as finding somebody closer in time.
Okay.
And it depends upon how much intermarriage there was within a group.
Oh,
So
good point.
so for example, if it's an early European colonial family, um, and I can't do the math quick enough in my head to figure out how far back,
I
but
didn't.
basically, if there are few people intermarrying, just because there are few people, potential spouses, or
Mhm.
because the religion or other practices say we can only intermarry within our group, um,
Okay.
even on an island, then you get DNA concentrated on, and you're related on multiple lines,
Mhm.
and then things get trickier, and because you're, you know, it's
Definitely.
all the math that we do is saying, well, if I was related to this match one way and only one way, and I shared 100 centimorgans with that match, what would that mean?
Mhm.
And you'd put it in the little calculator, and it would say, well, it's probably a second cousin once removed,
Mhm.
blah 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 blah. But if you were like a third cousin on one line and a fourth cousin on another line and a half second cousin on another line, all the little pieces of DNA could add up to a number that makes it look like you're more closely related to that person.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So it sounds like, Catherine, not enough to confirm. Sounds like you're probably going to end up needing to find more paper research. Is that correct, or just for that to go that far back to you
Mhm.
to? She's got the matches, but it sounds like she's going to need more paper genealogy research. Um, so yes, all right. And Barb says someone she knows her. Let's see, someone I know, her husband is adopted. She wants to know which DNA test is best. Husband doesn't know about his birth parents. And it looks like there was, they want to find out in the medical history for their son. So they're looking at it from a medical history standpoint
Mhm.
as well. So I'll let you go for it.
Okay,
I
sure.
actually think I know the answer, but I'm gonna let you go for it.
Well, you know this answer, right? Ancestry. I
Yeah.
would start out with Ancestry. It has the most people who've tested there. Last count, it was over 18 million people. So that means you'll have likely the most matches there, as well
Mhm.
as, matches have trees. They're not perfect, but it's way better than other places,
Mhm.
and good tools. And then the medical information is a really interesting question. And I actually wrote an article about this for a genetic counseling magazine. And then I wrote another article on this, basically the same topic, for APG, the Association for Professional Genealogists.
Mhm.
Because the question comes up, like, do you need to know who your birth parents were in order to get medical information? And if you
Mhm.
do know your birth parents, like, what can you glean? Like, if you're not picking up the phone and talking to people, what can you glean? So, one thing is, you can oftentimes, depending upon the state that your ancestors died in, you can look at death certificates.
Mhm.
And death certificates don't always have the correct cause of death on them. If I think about my mother's and my aunt's, they're not correct. But at least you can maybe see a pattern. And I worked with one adoptee where I saw people were dying really young, like around 50. And that concerned me, that her potential birth father and his sister, and like kind of
Mhm.
everybody's dying really young. And in the end, she talked to his sister, who said, "Oh, right, we have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in our family,"
Oh,
which,
wow.
like, normally is not genetic, but in 10% of the cases it is. So I would assume that that's what was going on in this family.
Mhm.
And it's very treatable if it's identified early.
Mhm.
So she was able to tell her doctor, then, I have this family history. And
Mhm.
she was somebody that she did not know her birth father until I identified him.
Okay.
So that gives you that can give you information. And also one, and this is for more for people who really don't want to know who their birth parents are. They're just concerned about the medical information.
Mhm.
Um, one thing there would be that there are specific groups of people who tend to have higher rates of genetic diseases,
Mhm.
and including Ashkenazi Jewish people. And you can do a Google search and find the different diseases. And I believe there are genetic panels. If you went to your doctor and you said, "I'd like to work with a genetic counselor," and you know, through your ethnicity estimate alone, you would know if you had a strong Ashkenazi Jewish heritage. And they can run panels to look for those very common diseases.
Mhm.
And I found out that the Louisiana Cajuns also have a higher rate of certain diseases,
Hmm.
which makes sense because that's a closed community, at least historically. Of a small group
Right.
intermarrying, and then those typically those recessive disorders will crop up in those communities.
Mhm.
So there are things that you can glean, like from even from that ethnicity information.
Mhm.
um, and we also have Prometheus. It's Prometheus,
Okay.
Promethease.org or .com, where you can upload your raw DNA data, and then you pay like $5, and they give you a report. And it's complicated, because like they they don't want to get in trouble with the FDA for giving out medical information. So
Mhm.
they make it less than clear, but they'll say like, high risk, low risk, whatever, you know, no risk,
Mhm.
and then they'll cite scientific articles that you can read.
Okay. It sounds like if somebody has an immediate concern or reason to believe they might that actually a genetic counselor might be the way to go
Hmm.
because some of these self ones. I know we've had conversations in the past about 23andMe. I mean, they have these things, but what they're testing for is so limited that it's not going to cover everything. I think that sometimes people have in their minds that they want it to cover. So, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely there. Um,
Right.
yeah,
That's a really good point.
yeah.
Like,
All right, let's see here. Barb said, if somebody from Canada wanted to hire you, would you accept that? And how does one connect with you for a price for hire? I will get Mary's website and information below. You can address the Canadian part
oh,
while I grab
sure,
that for you.
sure, thank you. Right, I have worked with several people in Canada who have unknown parents, and it's basically the same process. It's a little harder to track down people in Canada because there are better privacy laws than we have in the United States. But at the same time, it's um, it's very doable in terms of uh, you know we share a lot of the same heritage, and the databases where we test is predominantly people of Northwest European heritage. So that means that if you have Northwestern and even European heritage, um, that you should have some good matches, and we should be able to figure things out.
Oh, great. Yeah, and I just put that information to find Mary at dnahunters.com in the chat. So you guys will see that. And I'll make sure I add it back into the descriptions, guys, when the live is over. Nancy, I'm sorry, I almost missed her question up here. She had a question about that ancestry tree that once you've created a tree on Ancestry, do you download it? So I'll let you take that. I don't know if she
Okay.
means you've done it or whether she's created the tree on Ancestry. Probably you.
Um, you can download trees on Ancestry. Um, it's in a GEDCOM file. It's GEDCOM, and it's the file format that other genealogy softwares use. You might do that if you decided that you no longer wanted your subscription, although maybe your tree sticks around even if you don't renew your subscription.
I don't know. I'd have to check on that.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So yeah. So if you have an ongoing subscription, your tree would just sit there, and you can make it private or public. When I'm working with people, I make them private because they're we say they're experimental, so they're not for sure. And at least initially, the tree will consist of their matches trees. And ultimately their matches trees should let me build it down to the birth parent and the client. But sometimes like that's the very last step. Unless they have a tree with one parent that's known that exists in their Ancestry account, then I would be building those little match trees, and they're not connected to the client until I can connect them. Where I say the client, I say, well, there was a missing father. Well, here we go. Here's this other kind of floating tree branch that was out there, and now I'm going to pull them in and connect everything.
Yeah, Catherine was mentioning that you don't have to have a subscription to view the ancestry trees, and that's true. But to work it and to build it out, you do have to have that prescription, subscription. I would think, for you to be able to. I think, don't you?
Well, if you want to look at records and not just
for your purposes, I guess is what I was saying. Thinking was to build that. Yeah, you don't have to have it to see it, but to build out the tree like Mary would need to do, she would need to have access to the tree with a subscription. Okay, so Barb, we mentioned that for genetic testing through the family doctor. Yeah, you might want to start there, and then they can refer you to the genetic counselor if that's what you need. All right, I have missed somebody here. Oh, Nancy had another question. She's an adoptee, and she used DNA to confirm her birth father. She says, I have a match with whom I share 1,340 sonomorgans of DNA. Ancestry considers him 70% a half sibling and 30% a first cousin, and she can't figure out how to decide which he is. Any suggestions? Here, I can pop that up there if you want to see that. It might be easier. That was a long one.
1340. Yep, 70%. I guess I would ask if she has reached out to him. And, does he have a tree?
Okay. So Nancy, what she's saying, have you actually reached out to him to see, because I don't know if there'd be a paper way to do it or just she's at the point where she needs to reach out. Is what you're saying.
Right. Plus there's the what are the odds tool. So it's through DNA Painter, and it is you build a new tree in it, or you replicate your tree, and you tell it how much DNA you're sharing with your various matches. So in this case, it would be this match plus the shared matches of his. And assuming he's got a tree, or you can build one for him, then he would be part of this what are the odds tree. And the really nice thing about that is it will take the statistics. So she had said 70% versus 30%. Well, it'll take the statistics from all of the matches that you have to that tree, and it will combine them and then tell you which scenario is more likely.
Okay. And she has said that, yes, that she has reached out, that they are both adoptees, and that he did not know anything about his biological parents, and that she figured out his mom.
Okay.
So.
And if you know his mom, and if that's how you're connected, then you could build that tree in in the DNA Painter tool called What Are the Odds? And you can do one tree in that tool for free,
Mhm.
or you can subscribe. It's about $50 per year, and
Oh,
then you have limitless trees.
gotcha. Not connected through the mom, so it looks like they're only connected through the fathers.
Father, okay.
Yeah.
So may I
Yeah, go
interject?
ahead.
Now,
Go
I was
ahead.
just thinking of this, uh, that I had mentioned building out your matches trees. And next week on Wednesday, I'm doing a presentation called How to Build Your DNA Matches Trees. And
Ah,
that's through Legacy Family Tree webinar. And it's free talk, or if you have a subscription to their platform, it will be taped at, I think, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock next Wednesday. And then you will be able to listen to the audio recording, well, the
okay.
video recording.
Hey, guys, I will, after we're done here, I'll grab the link for that and get those added too as well, so that you guys can, I'll advertise that out too, so you can find Mary's talk on that. That'll be a great talk. Definitely. And Dave was, we were talking about downloading family trees. Dave made the comment. He said, downloading a tree is an excellent way to back it up. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I know we talked about managing family trees a couple weeks ago, I guess, in the Facebook live Facebook YouTube live stream I did. We talked about backing up as well. So, well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us again today. I know I've learned a lot, and I actually feel better able to be able to help people kind of refer to you, and who's a good person for you to work with, or who might need to reach out to you and see what's going on, see if you can help them out. Because I honestly didn't know quite as much about this topic and really your process. I think if I'd sat down I would have come up with parts of it, but to really understand, it's just a little different than what I do from a straight up genealogy research. So thank you so much for coming.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
tell us about you. You were telling me earlier before
Uh-huh.
we leave, guys, she's got a fabulous free resource for us, and I want you to tell us about it while I put it in the chat, because I know I
Okay.
need to sign up for it too. So,
Okay. So I have a 6-page handout that goes into more detail on these steps. It starts out with the non-DNA resources that you can look at, including that non-identifying information. And then the remainder of the handout is the steps to go through. And sometimes I'm going, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then I'm going back to step 2. So it is a lot of analysis of the trees and the facts, the way that you do in regular genealogy. And then it's also, a dose of that math in terms of thinking about, is this really a first cousin, or is it a half first cousin? Or is it a first cousin once removed? And today we have these wonderful tools like that What Are the Odds tool, that really make it much more straightforward in terms of entering and using that data to come out with answers.
yeah.
So thanks, everybody. And thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, guys. I've got I put the links in the comments, and again, afterwards, I'll add it into the description. So if you're watching on YouTube, especially on YouTube, but also on Facebook, you guys can easily find that, because I think it's a fabulous resource. All right, guys, I will see you next week again, next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I look forward to talking genealogy again with you. So have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.